Episode 139, Empowering Women Through Community with Jane Copier.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with a coach? Here we go.
We are wired to be together. There is much comfort in gathering with like-minded people to discuss and navigate the ups and downs of life. There are times in life where feeling like we don't have a group and don't have the support we need can be more acute. Coach Jane Copier works with one of these groups. She helps women who are in midlife come together and get the support they need to transition from having most of their time being wrapped up in taking care of their children to having an empty home and learning a new role of being a mother to adult children and having to make their own schedules. Jane is passionate about helping women in this stage of life and has created an amazing program entitled the Empty Nest Academy, where, as she puts it, it's a place for women who want to make the second half the best half. So if you find yourself feeling lonely and transitioning from the first half of life to the second half, check this podcast out and then go sign up for Jane's Academy and truly make the second half of your life the best half you could have ever dreamed of.
Hey folks, welcome to the podcast today. We are glad you are joining us, and I am glad to have Coach Jane Copier with me. Hi, Jane.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Jane has been on with me before, and so I'm going to have her introduce herself, but for some of you, it might be a repeat. So let's just jump right in. Will you introduce yourself for us?
Sure, you betcha. My name is Jane Copier, and I am a Christian coach for midlife women who are struggling with that transition. I have a group coaching program called the Empty Nest Academy to help women kind of go through that phase of moving from having children in the nest to moving out and refiguring out relationship with hubby and growing relationship with children as that dynamic changes. And so it's the work that I do and I love it. But aside from work, I am married to my best friend, Steve Copier, and we have 4 awesome kids and 4 beautiful grandbabies. And we live in South Jordan, Utah. So yeah, life is good.
Fun.
I'm loving this phase of life of being a grandma and yeah, who knows? They might be the only ones we get because my boys don't seem too interested in marriage. So.
Well, you just never know.
Yep,
Do your kids live close by? Are they around you? Are they away?
Yeah.
Where are they?
Yeah, we're fortunate to have all of them. Our daughter is our furthest away. She's in Saratoga, which is probably like 30 minutes away from us, but close enough. And she has all the grandbabies. So we go there a lot and see them. But we have one son he's in Catalina this summer working on a zip line. So he's off on another adventure. And
that sounds
so
fun.
we're missing him a little bit, but other than that, I'm really blessed. I get to see them all quite often.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, Jane, as you're introducing yourself, you talked about who you work with, which I know was kind of a shift for you over the last little while. So some people might know you as, the coach that what you worked with before, who you worked with before. Do you want to tell us why you made that shift? And
yeah, you bet. For the last 4 years, I've been working as a marriage coach. I love working with marriage, talking about marriage, all of that. It's been a huge blessing. It was really a big part of my own journey to heal my marriage and really change things in my own life. And so I've been able to help lots of people do that for themselves too. But what I discovered over those last 4 years is that I just really love working with women. I love helping them step into their power and really embrace who they are as women, how to show up as full partners with their spouses, how to kind of get rid of the patriarchy that's ingrained in our heads and just really grow to be who they're meant to be, which is just a beautiful divine being. And so I am so passionate about that. I love, love, love working with women and especially Christian women who we kind of share the same framework, the same type of beliefs. And I think, especially in that Christian community, women do have some cultural programming that is difficult to overcome. So working through that is just a joy and awesome. Yeah.
I love it.
Love women.
One of the things you said was helping women step into their power. And I had another coach on the podcast not too long ago who kind of made that same statement. I'm curious to you what that means, like helping somebody, like, what does that mean to you? Somebody stepping into their power?
Yeah, that means like, instead of shrinking back and taking the lower position or the down position in a relationship, to really step into being a full and equal partner, really letting their voice be heard, really letting their opinions matter. Maybe stop trying to be a peacemaker while we have turmoil inside, keeping it all here, but learning how to be an honest communicator and really stepping into their life in a way that makes them feel powerful and fulfilled.
I think it's so good to help people see that, because a lot of times we just think that, how we're living and the role that we take in a relationship is just how it's supposed to be, or how it has to be, or how it's meant to be. And with little subtle shifts in learning a little bit more about ourselves and who we are, that whole dynamic in a relationship can change and can be so exciting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So much of it is programming, right? We watch our parents and the way that they interact and their dynamic as a couple. And it sort of becomes like what should happen. We have like preconceived ideas. Also, we have, cultural ideas in our religion about women's roles and where their place is, all that kind of language around what is expected of a woman. And it's just actually tuning in to your own relationship with God and discovering what he wants for you, what she wants, like what our heavenly parents, when I say God, I mean Heavenly Mother, Heavenly Father, both of them, what they want for us as women. And when I've asked that question in my own brain, it's much different than what I watched happen in my parents' marriage and other marriages that I was privy to, observe growing up.
Yeah. I think for some people listening, hearing that and thinking that maybe if things could be different can feel frightening, or they might back away a little bit and be like, well, that's not really the way that it should be. Like, we have all that programming comes up and kind of makes you feel like you have to push away a little bit, like, oh no, that's not for me. But
it feels dangerous.
It does.
Right? Yeah. It feels dangerous. Like if I try to step into a different relationship, if I try to evolve in that way, it maybe I am bucking what I profess to believe in, or, all of that kind of stuff, but it lives here, right? It lives in our brain. Yeah. Until you kind of experience it. It's so fascinating. I have a client, and I know that we're not talking about marriage today, but I have a client that just came to one of my events recently, and she really was in that one down position in her marriage. Her husband was quite dominant, a brilliant man, but very patriarchal. And their marriage was hard. It was hard, as she was suffering a lot. Like for the first many sessions, she'd just cry, right? But she really did learn how to show up as a partner. And I don't think that just to watch them, they're so much happier, number one, but also there's way more love and respect on his part for her when she said, this is how I am to be treated. This is how I am to be a partner. This is how this is appropriate and this is not, right? Having those boundaries. So it's beautiful work. It's meaningful work. And it's just so helpful and changes lives. Seriously, like just changes the way that you can expect to live your life and how you can expect to grow old together, which is huge.
It is beautiful work. Like you said, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily easy work. It can feel really uncomfortable to step out and tell a spouse or somebody in a relationship, hey, this is something here needs to change. That can be really scary. So I think you grow as an individual in many ways when you start to do that sort of work. You
Yes.
You face a lot of fears and you grow from even facing those fears. And then the relationship grows as well.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is, even though it takes that courage, the more we do it, the more confidence we have.
Mm-hmm.
The self love we have grows in so many ways because we're staying true to who we are as eternal beings. We're not dimming our light for anyone anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so you mentioned an event that you had recently, and I know that you didn't mention the event, but I know what one of your events was recently. You had like a get together for women virtually.
Yeah.
And so from hearing you talk about that, I know that community is important to you and you recognize the importance of building those relationships for women. And I'm curious if you can share with us like your feelings on that, your thoughts on community and why it's important. And do you have any personal experiences you can share there?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was growing up, we moved a lot. We moved an awful lot. And so my husband and I were talking, I went to different schools in the 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th, 7th, 9th, and 10th. So only 8th grade. So like different schools every year, we just moved a ton. And so I was constantly the new girl. I was the new person. And I knew what that was, to have everybody's eyes on you as you walked into school and be like, oh, introduce yourselves, tell a little bit about yourself. Well, our brains are obviously, you've heard this over and over, probably in this podcast. If you listen to this, our brains are really wired for safety and to protect us from pain, to keep us safe. But part of that safety is a sense of belonging. We need community, because if we don't have a sense of community, we feel like we're outside the cave, everybody else is in, where it's safe and warm. We feel isolated. Our brain feels like it's very dangerous, like there's peril ahead for me because I'm not going to have a community to help me get food or shelter or clothing, that kind of thing. So isolation is a big deal. It's a scary thing. And so moving to all these different places was difficult. And I would always pray to Heavenly Father, please just let me have that one friend. Please let me have just one friend. That's all I need. And that prayer was always answered. But I'll just tell you like a story about the 5th grade. We had moved to California from Missouri. I've shared this story before, so if you've heard it, I apologize. But when I moved from Missouri to California in the 5th grade, it was a big change because in Missouri, the trends were about 4 years behind the trends in California. And so not only was I the new person, I was really awkward. My clothes were backwards. I was in that awkward phase anyway. I'd just gotten glasses. I was a 4 eyes. I was a little chubby. I just was like in this place where I just didn't really like myself. I was in the class with a friend, and I had that one friend, Donnell Elliott, and she was a friend of mine. She became my friend, and she was kind, and I just loved everything about Donnell, and everybody else did too. Donnell was amazing. She was beautiful on the inside, on the outside. She was a typical California girl, blonde, long hair, blue eyes, just beautiful soul. And she became my friend. Well, Donnell was also a member of a group. They called themselves The Group. They wore matching t-shirts occasionally that said 86 rules. That's when I graduated, 86 rules. And everybody had matching t-shirts. And I just thought, I really want to be part of that group. I was just so hungry for friends and for community. And, we'd moved quite a bit and I was thirsty for it. Really, I could feel myself. So Donnell and I decided that we are going to ask them if I can be in the group. So she does. And then one afternoon at lunchtime, we all march into the girls' bathroom and they all go behind the girls' stalls there. And Donnell and I are out by the sinks. And the plan was that we're going to ask the question, who wants Jane to be a member of the group? And the yeses were to raise their hand and then they'd count the hands. Well, Donnell says, okay, everyone raise your hand if you want Jane to join the group. Well, not one hand went up, not one, except for Donnell's next to me, right? She was just so sweet. And of course, it just crushed me. I just started crying and I left the bathroom and I just felt so rejected and humiliated and just like I had zero value. Well, my dear friend Donnell said to them, well, if Jane's not in, then neither am I. And she left that bathroom and she came and she joined me. And she actually, the girls all came together and they decided they liked Donnell more than they disliked me. So they did reconsider, revote, and invite me into the group. And it's horrifying to me now to think back and to see, like, I was overjoyed. I'm like, great, I'm in. I just was that hungry for community. And so, I had these experiences growing up where I did feel isolated. It's interesting. 50% of midlife women report feeling lonely. That's a huge amount. And there's a lot of reasons why people feel lonely, but in that midlife era, especially for women, the house becomes more quiet. Maybe they feel that sense of loss, that sense of purpose, that sense of identity as the kids start to leave. And because we've devoted so much of our time and energy into raising the kids, maybe we've neglected other friendships. Maybe we haven't spent as much time fostering them. So it's very easy to go out your front door or out your garage, shut your garage door, drive to wherever you're going, come back, maybe wave to neighbors in and out, but we don't really take the time to connect. And loneliness is a problem because it's not just an emotional problem. It actually can cause problems with us physically. It can increase your blood pressure. It can increase your heart disease, obesity, decrease your immunity, cause anxiety, depression, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, even death. Like, people who are super lonely can even die of loneliness, right? So it's such an important piece of our emotional health and our physical health that we can control. So it's so important. A couple of years back, when I was serving as the Relief Society president in our ward, I think where the idea came for me to do my Empty Nest Academy for women, it came from this place. So I was serving as the Relief Society president, and my dear friend Lori, she was working as my secretary. She shared with us this story of a Buna ceremony in Ethiopia. And it just, when I heard it, I was like, this is the best thing ever. What it is in Ethiopia, Buna is this coffee ceremony, and it is a long-standing tradition. It's been passed down to the women for generations and generations. And then what happens is the women all gather together and then they prepare coffee. They call it Buna, but it's a tradition where they come together. They show their craftsmanship, their attention to detail. They roast the coffee beans, they grind them, they brew it. Every little step is done with precision, and it allows them to show off their skills and their talents. But it also provides this place where these Buna ceremonies are just an avenue for women to discuss important matters. They share their hearts with each other. They exchange advice. They seek guidance from each other. It's just this beautiful space of community where people can come and find solace and have support. And I even just love the name Buna. I love the word Buna. It just is yummy to me. It just sounds so good. But it's just a place where women can thrive and support each other. And they need that. We need that. We are too often, especially when we're going through hard things, I think as women, we tend to pull back. Mm-hmm. We think we're the only one going through it. We kind of isolate ourselves a little bit. And what we need to do is to reach out, to move toward other women who can be there for each other.
Yeah, I those are great examples, both of those. And I'm glad you brought in a childhood one, because I think we forget that the experiences we have as children. And were you in fifth grade? Is that what you said? I can't remember. Fifth grade. Yeah, fifth grade. Experiences that we have then leave a stamp. They leave an impression on us, and probably have shaped the way that you have reacted in many situations. But I think it's important to see those and understand how things in our past affect us, but how we don't have to let them dictate how we choose to reach out to people in the future.
Yeah, it is so uncomfortable to be asking someone to please accept me. Like it's so uncomfortable to be that vulnerable. And actually, I'm really grateful to that fifth grade self who said, yeah, I'll still join the group, because
Yes.
it gave me that opportunity to learn how to be a member of a group, right? We just moved so much. I just really didn't get that opportunity to bond with people that often. And so it really gave me, I got a taste of what sisterhood felt like.
Mhm.
And, we know that God wants this for us. He tells us in the Doctrine and Covenants. Bonnie L. Oscarson gave a great talk about this. I can't remember, it's the purpose of sisterhood or something like that. But in Doctrine and Covenants 38:27, it says, I say unto you, be one, and if ye are not one, ye are not mine. When we say the word sister, it just feels like this unbreakable bond, right? It's like, no matter what, we love each other. No matter what, we're there for each other. And we take care of each other. We watch out for each other. We comfort each other. And so, like the adversary, she says, would have us be critical of each other, compare each other, talk down about each other, right? And she makes the comment that instead of like one person being an athlete and the other one being a couch potato, can we still be friends? Can we not judge each other? Can we just love each other the way that we are? And that's like the most important thing. And I think that's what we need more of in our society, like less social media and comparing, and more loving and appreciating each other's qualities. Sister Patricia Holland said once, we simply cannot call ourselves Christian and continue to judge one another or ourselves so harshly.
Mhm.
And that's just so true. Like she says, there's nothing in the world worth losing our compassion and our sisterhood over. Just need to relax and rejoice in our divine differences. I love that so much when I read that.
And it's so fascinating to me that we judge those differences rather than celebrating them. We know that we need differences. How boring a place it would be if we were all the same. I mean, we hear that all the time. We
Yeah.
need those differences, but yet we still, I don't know, we judge and we think that we should be more like somebody else, or that somebody else should be different and should do things our way. But it's awesome that we're all different. And it is in these communities. And I think that's one of the important things about organized religion in general, is that why we find ourselves in community, right? With people who are different, and people, we have similarities, but we have the opportunity to learn to be accepting of differences and celebrate them. I think it
Yeah,
is
yeah. I
important.
love the example in the New Testament where Mary is given Elizabeth to partner with in their pregnancies. She's like so much younger than this old woman who's also pregnant, but that sisterhood brings them together in the most beautiful way. It's so amazing that Heavenly Father would give her this gift. I mean, she was told, you don't have to do this alone. You have a sister who's,
Mhm.
so much older than you, but you're going to go and she's going to help you. And together you guys will be strong through this. Just so beautiful. I think
Yeah.
the things that separate us are, again, like that lack of security, that lack of self-love, like the things that I judge about in other people. There are things usually that I feel a little bit nervous about myself. Like,
Right.
this person, oh, she needs to lose weight. Well, maybe I'm hyper focused on disliking my body most of the time. And that gets old sometimes. And then we point the finger at other people or criticize them. But yeah, there's so many ways that women can benefit each other. I've had so many experiences when our daughter got married, and all my friends turned up to help us with the wedding and then to clean up after, and stayed till the very last minute. Just, it felt like I had been ministered to by the Savior, like he had washed my feet. It was just such a beautiful connecting experience. We had another situation where our son got into a lot of trouble, some very public trouble, like on the news trouble. And my sweet sisters in my Relief Society and in my neighborhood showed up for me in so many beautiful ways. And it's just that sense of community, knowing people, that there are people. And I want that for everyone. I
Mhm.
want that for every woman. I want to provide that for a community of my own women who maybe don't feel like they can reach out in their ward. Maybe they have some differing beliefs. Maybe they are questioning their faith. Maybe there's like, we just want to hold space for all of it in the Empty Nest Academy. We say, come, bring whatever is hurting, whatever feels needful to you, come and let us work through it together in a space where it's judgment free.
Yeah. So you're working with women who are, I mean, if they're empty nesters, are probably at this stage in their life, what we would consider to be Gen X women, which is that what you would say?
Yeah.
And I imagine, and as you talk about helping people step into their power, is this something that seems to be harder for this generation to do, or to stand for themselves versus our people who are younger than them? Do you see a difference?
Yes, 100%. It's totally different. Like, I watch my daughter with her husband. They have a complete, and so many millennials, like they really co-parent now. I think fathers are way more invested in parenting than it used to be. Like, dad goes to work, mom stays home. And so for a lot of Gen X women, like that was their job, their role, to be the mom. They did choose to stay home, and it was a beautiful choice, but now the job's gone. Right? Like that pattern every day of waking up and doing the same thing every day, running the carpool, taking care of kids, going to activities, that pattern just ends so abruptly. And our brains just feel stuck. They're like, well, what do I do with myself now? Like, how can I, what is my life now? Who am I now? If I'm not the mom of all these people, what is my role? What do I do? And if my husband and I don't have this distraction anymore of the children to be our entertainment and to take up our time and everything that we talk about, what are we going to talk about together anymore? Do we like the same things? We haven't really taken the time to be together in ways outside of the children, outside of being parents. How do we reconnect and make that better?
Yeah, it's a whole slew of things to figure out. And also I can see the importance of community in that stage of life, because oftentimes we all of a sudden think it's our spouse's job to fill all those needs now, right? To be the person who can entertain you or do all the things that you feel like you need to find. And when we have community, when we have sisterhood, we can fill those needs outside of that marital relationship, which I think relieves some stress and some burden from that relationship sometimes too. It's not really fair necessarily to say that it's one person's job to do all of those things.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah. That's really why women need other women. We understand each other in a way that our husbands really won't, and they can't, right? It hasn't been their experience. And also, as the kids leave, they have their own mourning process. They have their own things to go through. So they might not be available to hear all the words. They might not have the emotional capacity to give, where other women can say, yes, I get it. Here I am. I'm here for you. How can I help? How can I support? But I think the millennials, the younger generation, they really have learned from watching us to do it a little bit differently. I find, like, in my daughter's situation, she does not have those preconceived notions of roles of men and women. My daughter doesn't cook. She doesn't do much around the house. She is very much so of an equal partner, and her husband is very invested in, they do what their skills are, right? Like he's an excellent chef, so he loves to cook. It's not a gender role. It's just, these are the things that need to happen in our family. Who is best at this? And let's do it that way.
Yeah. Which is so fun and builds relationships completely different as well. So, okay. So one other thing that I can imagine that women in your community are facing is, as our children grow and leave home, well, there's changes. I'm like, even probably for you, maybe not for you necessarily, but the way we watch our kids do things, the way they do things differently than we did, right? There's societal, there's cultural changes, and more our kids are choosing paths that maybe we would not choose for them, or we think should be different. So what do you say? What would you say to them as they struggle with these challenges?
Yeah. There is a way to get through it in a way that will make your family closer instead of further apart. I know of what I speak because I'm 0 for 4. None of my kids go to church anymore. 0. This many go to church or are interested in it at all at this point. And, it is scary. It does make our brains very afraid when we think our children are doing their life wrong. And so there's a lot of work through coaching that we can do to help you learn how to calm that down, how to embrace agency, how to actually keep our family connected and loving each other through the different choices that we're making. And I know it's a process, right? Like I've gone through this myself, and we just had the kids over for Mother's Day, and it was a really lovely gathering, but it hasn't always been that easy. I looked to Easter a couple of years ago when my daughter first said, "Hey, this is not for me." I was so heartbroken. It was just a mess. So I understand, like, there's a process to go through, some grieving to have happen, but then also some relearning and some digging deep within ourselves to figure out what is it that we actually do believe. Do we believe in agency? Do we believe in faith? Do we believe that there is space for them to make those choices for themselves and still make it, like we like to say in our church, right? Make it. I think the journeys that my children have been on have been a huge blessing to me, because it's actually caused me to assess my beliefs and look at what I want to choose to believe and reevaluate those areas where I might disagree a little bit, and come to the place where I can still come and get what I need, come to church for what I need. So, and worship, that's all about me. I think there's a framework where we want the church to provide this, and that's why we want the kids there. But when I've just moved to the place where I know I provide this for myself, and then the church is where I go, like, to supplement and to feel the Spirit and to worship the way that I like to worship. So yeah, if you're going through this, mamas, I get it. And you need some help to get through this, because without coaching, it would be very, very difficult. And also, you can make decisions that really aren't in alignment with yourself. I don't know. Sometimes it's like this black and white mentality, in or out, right? But finding that middle, helping you find the middle, is really where the peace is in my mind and for my clients. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's important for us to hear each other's personal stories, which also speaks to the importance of sisterhood and community, right? We all have those experiences that are challenging, and we're all facing things that are different than we thought we would face. And the stories might be different, but the feelings that we experience are probably very much the same. So
yeah. And when we pretend, everything's fine, and we just suffer in silence and we don't share, gosh, it's a painful, lonely place to be.
Yeah.
And there are so many women out there who do want to connect and who want to say, "Hey, I'm here for you and I get it." So yeah, if you're isolating yourself, it's just not necessary. There are lots of amazing people who are going through the same thing. I don't know of a friend of mine, honestly, like, I don't know any friends whose families are just perfectly the picture that was the postcard for Christian Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint families, right? That postcard picture is just not a thing. It's not the thing. And coming to terms with, okay, what I told would work actually didn't work. And so now what? That's the question, right? Like,
I can't help but think that we're actually creating that picture perfect postcard, to use your words. Like, what it is now is probably what it was intended to be all along, right? Like, we're just recreating those postcards, and it's a little bit more reality now than it used to be. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, And reality and honesty and vulnerability all go hand in hand, right? If we want
Yeah.
intimate relationships like it, that's just what it is. Like, this is the truth of what's happening in my family, what's happening for you. And can we support each other? Like, you have these questions, I have these. Can we just support each other and encourage each other, help us strengthen our faith rather than feel like we're so lonely and isolated and no one else is going through this and I'm a failure, all the things that mamas think when their kids don't do the things they think they should, and
Mhm.
learning how to view it in a different way. There is another perspective that you can keep and also keep your faith.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jane. Thank you for sharing personal stories and your knowledge and wisdom with us. Before we leave, can you share with people just a couple more things where they can find more of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So you can find my website. It's just janecopier.com. Copier is just a funky Dutch name. It's spelled like copier, Copier. janecopier.com. I'm on Instagram at Jane Copier Coaching. I'm on TikTok at the Midlife Coach for Women. Where else am I? I have a Facebook group. You can find it under Jane Copier Coaching again, but it's the Midlife Thrive Tribe for Women, I think is the name of that. So yeah, come
Awesome.
work with me. Let's have some fun making your life amazing. That's
Oh, well,
the joy of this work.
yes, it is the joy of this work. And I speak from experience there as well. Like I think most of us coaches, I mean, all of us coaches do, we know the power that lies there. That's why we do what we do. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing with us today. And
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you
for
to all of
having
our
me.
listeners. And we will see you again next time.
Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.